Hello and welcome to the race review for the TGT Season 25-3 Imola round. This is a replacement for the stream that unfortunately didn't happen, so let's jump right into it. Let's start with looking at the pre-Imola standings for the Pro class. We have Andre Bartik in the lead, right ahead of Tina Curtis and Daniel Castellana. Of course, Drop Rounds doing a huge job there to carry up all of these drivers. I mean, look at the points difference without the drop round. It's looking like a Andre Bartik season so far, but right behind them we also have Sasha Dekov, Isaac Umbras and Eric Hutter, and Miso Stubner, who has not had the best start of the season yet, will be looking to improve on his previous results as well. In the M class, we have Dario Brams leading the way, with 3 people tied for 20 points at the moment. Tim Smith, Seizadi and Enzo van Rietbergen are all in a shared second place at the moment. Lillian Brown and Song KP are right behind that, with Jan Paul, Gary Slater and Adrian Dubrovka following that closely as well. So now, before we get into the qualifying session, we have 2 new drivers this round. In the M class, we have Hezi Thomas making their TGT debut. They're already racing in the V-Track series and now for the first time in TGT as well. In the Pro class, Mike Dieringer is making his comeback in his signature Reiter, so we'll be looking forward to seeing loads of Reiter action. The qualifying session then started with Dario Brams leading the way with an impressive 141.267 for an M driver. That is truly impressive, and it puts him 6/10 ahead, comfortably ahead of Enzo van Rietbergen with a 141.8 and Said Sadi with a 142.000. In the Pro class, Miso Stubner decided the entire qualification session for him with a 140.155, ahead of Eduard Koshinyan, who did a 140.347, and Andre Bartik in P3, who did a 140.505. The end of the qualifying session also revealed that Dario Brams was actually in P6 overall, so the top AM time setter really having a strong qualifying lap time here today. And here we come with the race start, and we're green, and it's a beautiful start in the back row there from Marcel Sux in the black and turquoise Mercedes, and look at all of these cars here lining up at Imola, and it looks like Eduard Koshinyan is taking the lead here at the front. That is beautiful move by the Armenian driver in the front now, and it seems like both of them are already creating a bit of a gap to the rest of the grid. I mean, look at this, they're already several car lengths ahead of Andre Bartik and Daniel Castellana there. And what are we seeing here? Oh, we're going back towards the back ranks of the grid, where Julian Strasser just rear-ended Tim Smith there, it seems. Oh no, what happened there? Let's take a look at the onboard perspective as well, and we can see, yeah, there's a bit of braking here by Tim Smith. Yeah, that is so unfortunate for both of these drivers. It did come out as a racing incident after the fact in the stewarding. And we continue now with Eduard Koshinyan, who is still in the lead. We are coming towards the end of the circuit. However, Miso Stubner trying to go for a move around the outside here, not quite working out, but it does hamper the line of Eduard Koshinyan, and it also means that Andre Bartik and Daniel Castellana are now within reach once again of the lead of the race, still on the first lap, on the end of the first lap here. Eduard Koshinyan still leading the race, but Miso Stubner very close behind, and now Andre Bartik and Daniel Castellana in the mix as well. They are losing Dario Brams, who is right behind them still. The AM driver in the lead here. Beautiful by him so far, but that is a bit too much of a curve, and that yeah, that means he has to go off track and loses a bunch of positions to Ryoma Kirihara, and now side by side with Marcel 6. And yeah, having to give up the position. But right behind that, we have Enzo van Rietbergen, who we are now on board with, and he sees all of that going on. He saw all of that happening, and that means that now Enzo van Rietbergen needs to advance his position quite a bit. Right behind that, we have Said Sadi a bit later in the lap here, who is outbraking themselves quite a bit here, having to go wide in this chicane here. Now we see Agustin Bata in a battle, and that is Charlie Bernahead, but Agustin Bata goes wide here and now has to rejoin quite a bit later, now in front of Jan Paul directly. And we rejoin them here a bit later in the lap, and it seems that Jan Paul wants to go for a move. It's the side of Agustin Bata though, and turns themselves around. How unfortunate for Jan Paul in this situation. And Agustin Bata as well, having to catch up quite a few positions now after this incident earlier this lap. Now we're on with František Brucha, who's right behind Gary Slater. Alex Leatherus behind that as well. This three-way battle in the middle of the AM field, and it looks like František Brucha wants to go for a move here. Not quite enough side by side, but look how close they're getting on the exit here. Brucha as well. Oh no! Maybe the exit was good enough for a move here. Side by side, goes a little onto the grass, but Brucha is now side by side on the inside for the next corner. Will this be enough for the move? Yes, it seems like it. Gary Slater having to reel back behind, and František Brucha having made the move. Alex Leatherus might be looking now, but František Brucha making up the position. And now we're here with that looks to be Agustin Bata trying to make an overtake over Muhammad Mustafa, but Mustafa goes wide here, braking too late for that corner and off into the gravel trap. And what do we see there? It is the battle that we just witnessed, passing this as well. So that is a position made up for all of these AM drivers. Muhammad Mustafa, of course, being in AM class as well. So this battle made up the position as we switch over to the front, where we have Albert Gersh being followed by Tina Curtis. I think Tina Curtis wants to go for a move. They're both following Marcel Suxo, so we'll have to see how close they can get before they're making a move for now. Back with the front of the AM grid, we see Dario Brems being overtaken here by Sasha Dechkov, it seems. Now, let's see, they're going side by side here. That's a bit sketchy, and it does end up in a contact. And Sasha Dechkov is turned around. Dario Brems as well, losing quite a few positions there. Quite a few drivers driving past these two. So, wow. Sasha Dechkov definitely getting worse off there, but let's take a look here from another angle, this entire situation. Sasha Dechkov, yeah, I mean, the side-by-side does not really work there at all, does it? Dario Brems' angle on entry was also not the best one, so we're on board here, though, with Enzo van Rietbergen, who takes the position just barely ahead of Dario Brems, and that is the new person leading the AM class. So what is going on here? It seems that Mike Deeringer is going wide here. That was a bit of an incident coming together with Charles Bertoni, I believe, but this right ahead of this as well, we still have the battle going on for the midfield of the Pro class. Albert Gersh now has caught up to Marcel Sux, and not only caught up, it seems he wants to go for the move. Marcel Sux now not even trying to defend. It does work. There is no touch between the two, but Tina Curtis as well wanting to go through on the Mercedes driver from Hungary. Will that work? It does not look to be close enough at this moment. Marcel Six, oh, maybe this move to the outside will work. They are side by side, but no. Tina Curtis will not try to make a move at this point. Has to slide back behind Marcel Six. Now, let's go back though, because this incident earlier that we saw with Mike Deering being pushed wide has allowed Said Sadi, who we are on POV with right now, to really catch up to Dario Brames, making this a battle for P2 in the AM class between the two drivers. Said Sadi for Oreo really catching up here. Enzo van Rietbergen, though, is the leader, right behind Isaac Umbris now. Enzo van Rietbergen, of course, leader of the AM class, have to add that. But Dario Brames and Said Sadi are not very far behind. A bit too much curb usage there by the McLaren. That is usually a line that you would take with the Mercedes AMG. But Said Sadi now really on the rear of Dario Brames. And oh, look at that. He goes a bit wide, dipping the tire into the grass. That is not going to help his acceleration up the hill. But he still has a higher top speed than the NSX. And moving over now, it seems we are at the Pro Battle, the front of the grid, of the entire grid, and look at that. Miso Stupna wants to go for a move now. We'll have to see whether that works, not this time around, but look at that. Koshinyan is just going wide here, and Stupna able to take the position. Just one bit of uncertainty there. Edward Koshinyan losing the position and losing a lot of ground already to Miso Stupna. Well done by Stupna, really making the Armenian driver insecure, and it seems that Andrei Bartek is right behind that, trying to get in on that action as well. Now back with the front of the AM grid, we have Dario Brames being followed still by Said Sadi, as both of them can see Enzo van Rietbergen just after the Oreo driver in the middle, which I believe is Sasha Dechov. But we'll see side by side here. Said Sadi wanting to go for a move around the outside. Not really working this time around. Dario Brames still able to keep that position too, ahead of Said Sadi in the AM class. Well, now we're coming into the Variante Villeneuve. I'll have to see. Oh, that's much curb usage there by Dario Brames. Not too much though for it to unsettle the car. A little bit later in the same lap we have Dario Brames, who has caught up with Charlie Byrne, that is, and Charlie Byrne has been turned around. Dario Brames now having to go a bit off track thanks to that, and that allows Said Sadi to move on past. Sasha Dechov did witness the move on his teammate though, so I don't know how happy he will be to have seen this from a first row perspective. He will try to go past Dario Brames, and Dario Brames just let him past? I mean, okay, that might be a bit of confusion because both of them have the same livery. Maybe he was trying to let Charlie Byrne past once again. Well, anyways, we're back now with Alex Leatherus. Oh, that doesn't look very good. A bit too much of the curb on the inside, and it seems that the Mercedes is just very damaged now, and yeah, that's going to be a retirement by Alex Leatherus. Now, back with the front of the grid. Look at that. Miso Stupna is opening the gap, really widening the gap here to Eduard Koshinyan, and it looks like, yeah, not really able to give much pace, and that is Hazy Thomas off. Oh no, look at that slide there by Koshinyan. That is interesting. A bit of instability, maybe uncertain because of the car off in the gravel trap. In any case, we are back with the lead of the AM now. Enzo van Rietbergen still in the lead and still looking quite solid. I mean, now he has no more buffer in between himself and Said Sadi, who is now right behind. Said Sadi, who we now see is getting close, and the safety buffer is now between Said Sadi and Dario Brames, actually. Back with the midfield of the Pro, we have, oh, that's Marcel Sux, and he will have to defend now from Tina Curtis. That Bentley is looking aggressive and is looking like it wants to make a move right now. I mean, this is one of the best opportunities out of the slipstream onto the inside. Let's see, does Tina Curtis make it work? Oh boy, that's a bit too much curb, and that's a touch. That's Marcel 6 taken out there, and he's now off into the gravel trap. And that also means that he is Sasha Dechov, who is in the slipstream of Said Sadi, is able to move past, make the position up, and wants to go to the inside as well. And that's Sadi taken out and turned around, collides with Dieringer, and oh boy, that was very close. A bunch of people having to go evasive now, and doing so quite well. Oh, that was a bit close there for Tim Smith. However, back to the battle between Albert George and Tina Curtis. Tina Curtis has driven on from the previous incident and is now looking to overtake the Hungarian photographer. Now let's take a look. Can she make a move? Moves to the outside because the defensive line is being taken by Albert Schurz. Outbreaks. On that, is still side by side. Was it a touch? I don't know, but it looks like Tina Curtis is still ahead, but they're still side by side. But no, but Albert Schurz for now has to move behind Tina Curtis. But it does not look like Albert George is done with this. There is going to be a move happening at some point, probably, as we see Scott Brewer, who has also caught up to this battle here. Scott Brewer having had a nice start to the race so far. But back over with Albert George. He's still in the slipstream of Tina Curtis, and he's not looking to give up anytime soon. We'll have to see whether he can make a move. Not like that, though. Loses control over the curbs, and that allows Scott Brewer even to move past the Hungarian driver. Now he has to even contend with Eric Hutter. Look at that. Eric Hutter catching up to Albert George here for this battle in the mid of the AM field. That's well, it's not as good a drive as Eric Hutter has already shown this season, but it is still a very impressive skill from him to be at this point. Now, back at the front of the pro grid, we are on board with Miso Stupna, who is right behind František Prucha. I think this is the start of the lapping period now, and it seems that Koshinyan is losing a bit of time here to Stupna still while the lapping is taking place. So now let's take a look at the interim standings after 20 minutes. It seems that there was a very good start by Scott Brewer, and a bunch of people had a good start. Tina Curtis as well, look at that. But yeah, we will have to see how it continues now after this first 20 minutes. And we're on board with Dario Brems, who is catching up to Enzo van Rietbergen, it seems. Look at that. There's a challenge for the top of the AM grid, and it seems like Enzo van Rietbergen is now going a bit off the circuit. That is going to be an invitation for Brems up the hill. Look at how close he's getting. Yeah, van Rietbergen now really struggling, really feeling the pressure, I presume. Oh, Brems going for the inside, but an Aqua Minerali, that's not going to work out. Now he has to back out of that move, and wisely does so. I mean, but he's still very close to the rear of that McLaren, that Oreo McLaren. I mean, there's been so much Oreo going on in this race, especially around Dario Brems, that he will want to move past that as quickly as possible. But yeah, we'll have to see how long it takes for a move to happen. I mean, the prime opportunity is coming, not here. Whew, wow. It's coming up right here, though, at the start-finish straight. We'll have to see how good the exit for Brems is, and whether he can, in the slipstream, get close enough for a move into T1. I mean, we'll have to see. He's getting closer a bit, but I don't think it will be close enough for a move. He does show himself in the mirror, even goes outside of the mirror range, but no, not close enough for a move at this time. It's very close here, but it's not looking like a move is coming right this instant. He is showing himself very aggressively in the mirror for Enzo van Rietbergen, and it looks like, oh, this is the time now. This is when he's going for a move side by side between van Rietbergen and Brems, and now up the hill. Who has the better straight line speed, almost touch a bit there, but Dario Brem seems to have the inside for the next corner now, does not have necessarily the right to the corner, but still side by side. Now who backs out of this into Acqua Minerale? It seems that Van Rietbergen has wisely backed out of this, not wanting to make a mess out of this. This easily done to have an incident there into Acqua Minerale, especially if you're too wide. Now we're on board here with Eric Hutter, flying above Eric Hutter, who is seemingly losing a bit of traction to Albert George with, I think that's Sasha Dechkov really catching up to the rear of Hutter, and it looks like Hutter will have to defend sooner or later. Dechkov will want to make up as many positions as possible after having been involved in an incident earlier on. Now back to the front we go, and we see Eduard Koshinyan closely following Stubner, but he's going into the pits. Yeah, that is going to be the start of the pitting game then. And the undercut being tried here. Andrei Bartek does gain the second position then pro bono, but who knows how long that will last. Back to the battle in the midfield of the pro section. Eric Hutter has been really caught up now by Sasha Dechkov, and it's only a matter of time. Soon there will be a move happening. I can feel it definitely. Eric Hutter at this point will also feel a bit of pressure from behind. Sasha Dechkov is not a passive driver, not by any meaning of the word. Now we'll have to see what happens now. Sasha Dechkov stays on the rear of Eric Hutter. Will he try and go for a move at the end of the straight? I mean, look at the straight line speed of that Nissan. And Hutter staying on the inside here, but not defending for the entry of turn one. That is now the inside, and look at how he's drifting past. What a pass here by Sasha Dechkov. Drifting past Eric Hutter into P5, 6, thereabouts. In any case, later that lap, we have a pit entry by Jan Paul, and that is way too late. Way too late on the brakes here. And I'm afraid that is going to be a disqualification for speeding in the pits for Jan Paul. And what we see here, Charlie Byrne, a similar thing, way too late on the brakes here, and has entered the pits over 100 kilometers of speed. So that is going to be a disqualification for speeding in the pits as well for Charlie Byrne. Now back to the front of the grid. We rejoin them as Mrs. Stubner is now entering the pits. Well, that's going to be interesting, because now after Mrs. Stubner then exits the pits, we will be able to see who managed to do their pit stop in a better way. Of course, Koshinyan here coming around, and Koshinyan is very far back, it seems, whereas Mrs. Stubner has now exited the pit stall. We'll have to see who of the two did gain an advantage after all, but I don't think Koshinyan is anywhere close enough to make the move to effectively undercut Mrs. Stubner. Now, Stubner is already out of the pits here. And while he will see him, yeah, they're just about, in the end, he will see Mrs. Stubner. But I think Stubner has gained a bit of time. Now, over to... there's Dario Brems moving into the pits for a pit entry, which allows Enzo van Rietbergen to just go a while longer. Now moving over to the battle in the mid of the pro field. We're on board with Sasha Dechkov right now, and the pitting is fully commencing. Right ahead we see Albert George getting into the pits, so that's going to be another battle we have to take a look out for. Sasha Dechkov coming around now to enter the pits as well, just by one lap later it seems. And now we'll have to see. We have Albert George coming around to... that looks like it could be Albert George being a bit ahead of Sasha Dekhov, but I think in the end it looks like Dekhov made up time. We'll have to see how close they are on the exit, but Dekhov now able to accelerate freely, or just ahead. Albert is just ahead, but also Isaac Umbras managing to get ahead of Sasha Dekhov there. So Isaac Umbras managing to make up a position, having had a very early pit stop in this race today. Isaac Umbras, well done, but Sasha Dekhov will not give that up, not one bit. Look at that, and there's a bit of touching, and both of them go off into the gravel section. Oh, that is not good for their approach on Albert George up ahead, and Eric Hutter is also now right behind Isaac Umbras. So, seems like there might be a battle brewing. Miso Stupna in the meanwhile, right side by side with Gary Slater here on the lapping action. And Eduard Koshinyan has lost a bit of traction, it seems, in the meantime. Koshinyan is a bit further behind than it was at the exit of the pits. We'll have to see. Blue flags, always a bit of a strategic game as to who will win and who will lose. And we are now seeing Ferdinand Brucha, who is just ahead of Woman Mustafa. This is a battle for position in the middle of the Yam field. Brucha looking mighty damaged there. That Ferrari has seen better times. We'll have to see how much he can do. Maybe here to defend. No, that is not a good look. Yeah, that was a bit unstable on the braking here. And Burma Mustafa taking the position away from František Brucha. Now back to the lead battle for the AM class. We are with Enzo van Rietbergen. Well, it's not really a battle at the moment. Enzo van Rietbergen going into the pits though. So we'll have to see who made the better pit stop then. Van Rietbergen or Dario Brems. But first, Miso Stupna is on the approach towards Woman Mustafa, it seems. And there's a bunch of cars up ahead, and who's that going off there? Someone just went off into the gravel trap, and I think that is Said Sadi. Oh yeah, it's just a bit too much curb there on the inside for Said Sadi, making him spin out into the gravel trap here. That is unfortunate. He was doing so well earlier on in the race, but now with the struggle, let's look at it from the first person view of Julian Strass. Oh yeah, that's just way too much curve on the inside there for the NSX to handle. Now let's go back. We see Enzo van Rietbergen exiting the pits, and Dario Brems is quite a far way back. But Van Rietbergen also had a very far back pit stall, so we'll have to see. It's quite a long pit lane here. Dario Brems coming onto the start-finish straight, and he's going back into the pits. Oh no, it's a stop-go 30 for Dario Brems. That is surely going to mean the end for his winning aspirations today. Dario Brems has a stop-go 30 penalty, and yeah, well, that will put him quite a ways behind the lead for the pro class. The AM class, sorry. But that does mean that Enzo van Rietbergen now has much less of a challenge, and Tim Smith is now suddenly promoted into the second position in the AM class after being taken out quite early in the race by Julian Strasser. Now, a bit damaged still on that BMW, but now he is back in the play for the AM class in the second position. Miso Stupna now here right behind a battle between Linian Brown and Julian Strasser. Julian Strasser trying to go for an overtake on the inside, but has to dive off into the gravel trap. Rejoins there, but that is a position lost. Well, not a position lost technically, but the overtake here on Linian Brown working out. Miso Stupna getting past without any major situation. Eduard Koshinyan as well able to move past here, past Linian Brown for the Oreo team, and it seems that the top two are still relatively close to one another. Now the next lap we see Julian Strasser in the slipstream of Linian Brown trying to go for another move, it seems. Moves to the inside rather late, but decides to not do it this time around. Was not side by side enough for a move at this stage. One lap later, and we see the same thing happening again. Look at that Bentley getting bigger and bigger in the rear of that Huracan. And this time he makes it side by side and sort of blocks Linian Brown right behind him. That is Julian Strasser, the pro driver, who has not had a great pace all day, overtaking Linian Brown, who is currently P3 in the AM class. Now let's take a look at the standings after 2/3 of the race are done. Quite a lot has happened in the midfield. The front seems static from before, but the midfield has seen quite a lot of action. People catching up, people dropping positions, especially Sasha Dechkov making his way up the standings. Now we go back to the battle. We see Augustin Butler battling it out with Mike Dieringer. That is a pro-class battle between the two. Mike Dieringer, of course, in his comeback, and Augustin Butler seemingly not wanting to give the returning Gallardo driver any of the free positions. I mean, Augustin Butler is, as we know, a driver that is prone to go for moves if they present themselves. I mean, who wouldn't be a racing driver otherwise? And it seems that he's going for it right here onto the inside of Dieringer. And that is the overtake done for Augustin Butler. I mean, Dieringer tries to move around, but does not work out. Now we go back to the front where Miso Stubner is, I mean, having quite a solid lead. Look at the distance that he's pulled to Edward Koshinyan in the meantime. And it does not look like Koshinyan has anything left in his tank for Stubner here. The gap is about 6 seconds between the two. Well, earlier it was 1 to 2 seconds. So Koshinyan, with much luck, will be able to see Stubner up ahead, but only on like very open ground. Let's take a look here. Koshinyan in the second position on the start finish. Just barely unable to see Stubner here after the straight, it seems. Yeah, losing quite a lot of ground, but he's still handsomely ahead of Andrei Bartek, so pretty much in no man's land at the moment. It was Koshinyan. In the meantime, we see Said Sadi here. No, that is Albert George being followed by Sasha Dechkov. It seems that a battle is brewing between the two as they're following Gary Slater there. Gary Slater, who is, of course, AM driver, is a lap down from these two cars. So Sasha Dechkov will want to make up the position, getting very close there to the Hungarian Albert George. Let's take a look as we come into Variante Villeneuve. George braking, keeping it safe off the curbs, as you do with the NSX, not like we saw earlier from Said Sadi. And Dechkov taking as much curb as he can. Gary Slater getting out of the way here. Does not want to impede at all in this battle between George and Dechkov. We'll have to see. George not turning in lefts. We're coming down to Aquaminerale. Who has the better line through here? I mean, it looks like Albert George has gained a bit of a gap here on his Oreo, well, different Oreo sub-team, sort of teammate, I guess. As we see Van Rietbergen now, who is catching František Prucha, lapping him. František Prucha moving out of the way, but what is that? Oh no, that is a collision between František Prucha and Van Rietbergen. It seems that Prucha just did not wait long enough for Rietbergen to be past him for the overtake. I mean, you don't just pull off to the side and let people overtake like that in the first place. That is how Formula 1 does it, but no real racing competition with multi-class racing or anything like that does that. But that does mean that Tim Smith has gotten closer, but judging by where he is at the circuit, it's not close enough for any move on Van Rietbergen. But what we see here is Daniel Castellana being right behind Tim Smith. And right behind Castellana is Linian Brown. So that is a battle then for the second position in the M class between Tim Smith and Linian Brown. Daniel Castellana wanting to just move past here, and Smith not wanting to lose any time because Linian Brown is right there and is right trying to go through as well. Not able to at this moment, but is now very close. The battle for the second position in AM, which has opened up because Dario Brems has received a stop-go 30 earlier on in the race. It looks to be on between the two, Tim Smith and Linian Brown. Who will take home P2 in the AM class? One of these two drivers will be it. Now back to the front because we're in the last lap of the race, and Miso Stupna seems to be unchallenged here in the win of the third round for TGT season 25-3 at Imola, right ahead of Eduard Koshinyan. Koshinyan in the second position, leading early on in the race, but not managing to defend from the pace of Stupna. And in third place, we have Andrej Batek, who had a bit of a quiet race after the first few laps. So, well done for finishing on the podium to Andrej Batek as well, even though it was a bit of a quiet race. Daniel Castellana finishing in another quiet fourth position. And in fifth position we have Ryoma Kirihara. Also a very quiet race for the Malay driver. And it seems that Albert George still has to do a bit of defending from Sasha Dechkov here. Dechkov right behind George, but it does not look any close enough to go for a move here. Albert George finishing in P6 right ahead of, actually P7 right ahead of Dechkov. Tina Curtis finishing in P6 in between the two. And for the AM class, Van Rietbergen, since Brems had the stop-go 30, it was uncontested for the Dutch driver Van Rietbergen, winning this AM race here for Oreo. And for the second position, we still have a bit of a battle here. Tim Smith right in front of Linian Brown. I mean, this is very close, but will it be enough for any sort of a move by Linian Brown? I don't think it will. That is Tim Smith finishing in second place, just ahead of Linian Brown in P3 in the AM class. Now let's take a look at the final results. We have Miso Stupna with Eduard Koshinyan, Andrej Batek, Daniel Castellana and Ryoma Kirihara in the top 5, who have stayed in those positions since the race start. Albert George, Tina Curtis, Isaac Umbris, Eric Hatzer and Sasha Dechkov make up the top 10, followed by Agaston Batter and Michael Dieringer. Marcel Six finishes in P13 in Pro Class, Julian Strauss in P14 in Pro Class, and Charles Byrne and Scott Brewer unfortunately did not finish the race due to different issues. Enzo van Rietbergen won the AM class after basically only gaining one position. That was on Dario Brems. Tim Smith in second with Linian Brown in third. Said Zadi and Bubba Mustafa round up the top 5, followed by Gary Slater, Dario Brems, who started so far up the grid in P6 in the beginning overall, and František Prucha in P8. Jan Paul, Alex Latheras and Hassie Thomas did not finish. For the standings after the race, Andrej Batek is now in a pretty uncontested championship lead, followed by Miso Stupna and Daniel Castellana. But right behind Castellana we have Tina Curtis and Eduard Koshinyan, as well as Isaac Ambros, Sasha Dechkov, Albert George and Eric Hatzer. All of these are basically in the play for a top 3 finish. In the M class we have Enzo van Rietbergen now leading the way 5 points just ahead of Tim Smith. Dario Brems really lost traction and is now under threat from Zaid Sadi and Linian Brown for the P3 position. The midfield is then also a strong battle between Jan Paul, Gary Slater, Bomber Mustafa and Song KP. Now the only thing that remains to be said is thank you all so much for watching, thanks to our Patreons for supporting us, and see you on the racetrack.